Hi everyone, this week we're all learning about how to shade an object. It's quite a long video, so I've actually split it into two parts. So try to complete one part this week, maybe one part next week. If you're really up for a challenge, you could go for it all this week, and I can't wait to see what you've done. Lola has been up to lots this week. She's been playing with her best friend Myla. She also rolled in something she shouldn't have, so she's had to have a shower. And she helped me pick out my nails for this week. So when you get to the end of the second video, you'll be able to see what she's been up to. See you soon. Bye. This week we're going to talk about shading. So what is it? Often people think shading's just colouring in the picture with a pencil, but it's so much more than that. It's the process of adding light and shadow to your drawing to make it come to life, to make it so realistic it looks like you can just touch it and take it off the page. We want 3D and solid looking rather than 2D and flat. And if an object's 3D, it's always going to have light reflecting off it and shadows created by it. Realistic shading is done by using a range of tonal values, going from light to dark. We looked at this in the first video, if you remember, when we tried to shade from really, really dark to really, really light with our pencil. It's exactly the same. The more tonal values you use in your shading, the better and more realistic your picture's going to look. I'd like you to have a go at creating your own table of tonal values. So if you can find a ruler, draw a rectangle, split it up, and see if you can colour in the boxes going from very, very dark to very, very light and everything in between. So you start pushing really, really hard with the dark first, then ease off the pressure, then ease off a little bit more, and every time you're getting a little bit lighter till you get to white. Now remember, if you're right-handed, you'll probably want to do it from left to right. If you're left-handed, you'll find it easier to go from right to left. So let's have a go at shading and look at all the techniques we can use to create different tonal values from light to dark. We can do so much with just one pencil. You just need to know how to use it correctly. So for all the techniques I'm just about to show you, there are two important things you need to practice. First of all is your pencil pressure, and we've talked about that in video 1 and video 2. So it is being able to go very, very dark, pushing down to very, very light. And this is one of the biggest things that you can learn how to do. This will really, really benefit your drawing and your sketching. The second thing you need to remember is how far out you space your lines. So for all of these techniques, the closer you put your lines together, the darker the tone will be, and you can layer them on top of each other. The more you space them out, the lighter the tone will get. So there's two things you need to remember. It's tricky. So you need to think very carefully when you're doing it. You need to use your brains and really, really look at what you're doing. First technique we're going to look at is called hatching, which is using a series of lines all going in the same direction. So I've created these boxes here, and I'm going to go from dark to light in all of these boxes to demonstrate to you how to do it. So with hatching, choose any direction you like, and you're going to start off pushing quite hard with the pencil and putting these lines really close together. I've chosen to go diagonally with my lines just because I want to. You can go vertically or horizontally, whichever direction you want. So I'm starting to push quite hard with the pencil. I'm also layering them up on top of each other. So I'm creating this really nice dark tone. Now, as I come across the box, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ease off the pressure. So I'm not going to push very hard with my hand now. And I'm going to start spacing out my lines. Can you see how they're not so close together here as they were over here? So over here, I've really put them on top of each other, and I've really layered them up. Now I'm starting to space them out. I'm also not pushing as hard as I was. As I come over to the light side, I'm going to start spacing them out even more. And I'm hardly touching the page, so I'm trying to keep it really, really light. So you can see I've created some tonal values here, going very, very dark to light, just using lines. So that is called hatching. The second technique we're going to look at is cross-hatching. And you can guess, it's exactly the same as hatching, but we're using different lines in different directions, crossing over the top of each other. So this time I'm going to do it again, and I'm pushing quite hard with my hand. I'm starting with my hatching, then I'm going to change direction. I'm going in the opposite direction, and I'm layering my lines on top to create a really dark tone, but I'm going in two different directions here. Okay, so I've got this nice dark tone. I can go over as many times as I like. It depends how dark I want that tone. I can keep going, keep going, keep going. Now, as I go across the box, I'm now going to release the pressure. So I'm not pushing as hard, and I'm starting to space my lines out. So I'm going to cross hatch over the other side, but again, I'm spacing those out. Okay, so here I'm layering them up, and as I go across, I'm still cross hatching, but I'm just spacing my lines out. As we go over here, I'm going to hardly touch the page with my pencil, and I'm really spacing out those lines. So I've managed to create a dark tone, a mid-tone, and a light tone again. And that's called cross hatching. Okay. The third technique we're going to talk about is stippling. So stippling, nice and easy. Stippling is using lots and lots and lots of little dots and marks. So I'm tapping with my pencil, and I'm pushing quite hard with my hand. So I'm really applying a lot of pressure now. So I'm pushing down, and I'm layering them on top. So you can see I keep going over and over and over the top. So I'm creating my nice dark tone. This is quite a nice technique if you're doing something with quite a lot of texture. So you might be doing something that has fur, maybe even an orange with that lovely sort of surface to it. So this is quite good for textural pieces of artwork that you want to shade. Okay, so I've created my dark tone. Now I'm going to start to create my mid-tone. I'm going to ease off a little bit, and I'm starting to space out my dots. Now, all of these techniques I'm showing you, they're not that easy. So, particularly if you're in the younger years, if you're in Key Stage 1, don't worry if you can't do this the first few times you try it. This takes a lot of practice. And normally, I only start doing this kind of shading and sketching with Key Stage 2, maybe in Year 5 and Year 6. So please don't worry if you can't do it exactly like this yet. This is what you want to end up doing it like when you've had lots of practice. Okay, so this is called stippling. The next technique is quite a fun one, just scribbling. So scribbling, you're scribbling really in lots and lots of different directions. But again, I'm pushing down with my hand, and I'm scribbling in lots of directions, and I'm really applying lots of pressure, and I'm going over the top again and again and again and layering. As I move across the page, this is quite a tricky one, you're going to ease off on the pressure and start to spread those lines out at the same time. It's very tricky to do both those things at the same time. And then finally, I'm really spacing them out and nice and light. I think most people that try to do this the first time, they will either get the lines nicely spacing out as they go across, but they won't get the pressure right, or they'll get the pressure right, but won't space the lines out. So the trick is to do both at the same time, and that is hard. So do keep practicing, and you'll get better and better and better. So that's called scribbling. We're all good at scribbling. Now, the last technique is quite a nice one. This is smudging or blending. It's a little bit like when we tried to go from dark to light in this video, and we tried to keep it really smooth. So this is quite a nice smooth one, okay? Smudging or blending, it's slightly different. Now, The difference with this one is you can actually use a different technique. You can hold the pencil differently. So we've been holding the pencil like this, a normal sort of pencil grip. Now, if you can see what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the pencil in my palm. So I've got it underneath my hand. You can't see it on the top of my hand anymore. It's underneath. Okay, I'll show you that again. So we're holding it like a normal pencil grip, and then I'm going to take my thumb away and I'm going to turn my hand over. It might take some practice to get that right. Okay, so this is like an overhand grip, and it's very, very good for getting very, very smooth lines. Now, the problem with it though is you need quite a sharp lead. In all of these shading techniques, I've had quite a blunt pencil. It works much better for shading. However, when you're using this technique, okay, so it's basically on my palm like this. I put my thumb on it and I turn my hand over. Okay, so I've got my pencil, put my thumb on, turn my hand over. And it's a weird grip. You certainly wouldn't use it to write with, but it's a lovely one for shading, especially if you want to shade large areas as well. So I need a sharp point on there because I want to use the side of my lead. So my lead needs to be quite big. So make sure you've got a sharp pencil, and then what you're going to do is start at one side of your box, pushing quite hard. And then you're going to ease off the pressure. Now, what you'll find with this grip is that it will pick up any textures underneath. So any surfaces, it's a little bit like doing rubbings. When you're doing rubbings with crayons and things, it will pick up the surface texture underneath. So if you want it really, really smooth, you're going to have to put another piece of paper underneath. If you're using a soft pencil, so here I just used a 5B, you then have the option of using your finger to do a bit of smudging or blending as well. Okay, so you can actually use your finger as well. Now, I also have this tool, which I think is brilliant. It's called a smudge stick. Okay, so I like to use a smudge stick or a blending stump. They've got all sorts of names. It's basically lots of tightly packed paper, and then they've sharpened it to a point. And you can use it, if I just show you here, so I can do my shading like this. And then I can use the end of it to smooth out my marks a little bit. It's a nice little tool, and I'll show you a bit more about this tool later. I just bought these on the internet and they're actually quite cheap. So they're a nice tool to have at home if you can have one. And you'll really appreciate that with your sketching. So now I'd like you to stop the video and have a go at these different sketching techniques. This might take you a while because it might take a bit of practice. They're not very easy. So the hatching and the cross hatching I think you should be fine with, because we did do a little bit of that in the last few weeks. The stippling is quite fun, but please don't break your pencil lead. Don't hammer the pencil down and make lots of noise. If you're making lots of noise, you're probably hitting the pencil on the table a little bit too hard. Scribbling takes a bit of practice, and then the blending again. So have a go, create some boxes of your own. You don't even need to create boxes if you don't have a ruler. You could literally just go across the page. So you could just go like this with your cross hatching across the page, and that will be fine. Okay, so but just get the idea, feel that pencil in your hand, gain control of that pencil. That's what we're really trying to do in these videos, is get you to take control of this pencil so you can use it how you want, and then you'll be able to sketch what you like when you like. So stop now, go and have a go, and I'll see you soon.